In the serene neighborhood of Willow Heights, tranquility was a cherished commodity. The streets were lined with manicured lawns, children's laughter echoed in the afternoons, and neighbors exchanged pleasantries during morning walks. However, this idyllic setting was often disrupted not by crime or natural calamities, but by the incessant grievances of one woman, Judith Granger, infamously known as the Complaint Queen. Judith's reputation was well earned. Her days were consumed with monitoring the neighborhood for any deviations from the Homeowners Association walk guidelines. A misplaced garden gnome, a slightly overgrown hedge, or a car parked an inch over the line, nothing escaped her scrutiny. She maintained a meticulous log of infractions, complete with timestamps and photographic evidence, which she promptly submitted to the law. Her home, a pristine Victorian-style house at the corner of Maple and Fifth, was a testament to her obsession with order. The lawn was trimmed to perfection, the flower beds were symmetrical, and the paint on the picket fence was always fresh. To Judith, her home was not just a residence, it was a symbol of her commitment to maintaining the neighborhood's standards. Neighbors learned to tread carefully around her. Children were instructed to keep their voices down when passing her house, and dog owners avoided walking their pets near her property for fear of inciting a complaint. Social gatherings were planned with caution, ensuring that noise levels remained within acceptable limits and that parking arrangements did not encroach upon her domain. Despite the community's efforts to appease her, Judith's list of grievances only grew. She took particular issue with the increasing popularity of backyard barbecue parties. To her, these gatherings were a cacophony of noise, smoke, and disorder. The scent of grilled meat wafting through the air was, in her words, an assault on the senses. Determined to restore what she perceived as the neighborhood's lost decorum, Judith embarked on a mission to ban backyard barbecue parties altogether. She began by documenting every instance of such gatherings, noting the dates, times, and specific disturbances caused. She compiled a dossier, complete with photographs and testimonies, some solicited under dubious pretenses, to present to the law. Her proposal was met with resistance. Many residents cherished their barbecue parties as a means of fostering community spirit and enjoying the outdoors. They argued that these gatherings were a tradition, a way to unwind and connect with neighbors. However, Judith remained undeterred, citing health concerns, fire hazards, and the potential depreciation of property values. The law found itself in a precarious position. While they acknowledged Judith's concerns, they also recognized the importance of community engagement and the residents' right to enjoy their properties. Meetings became contentious, with heated debates and divided opinions. As tensions escalated, the neighborhood began to polarize. Some residents sided with Judith, advocating for stricter regulations to preserve the community's tranquility. Others rallied against her, organizing barbecue events in defiance and promoting a more relaxed approach to neighborhood living. Amidst this turmoil, the essence of Willow Heights was tested. The once harmonious community grappled with questions of individual rights versus collective standards, tradition versus change, and the true meaning of neighborliness. Judith Granger, steadfast in her convictions, stood at the center of this maelstrom. Whether viewed as a guardian of order or an overzealous enforcer, her actions had undeniably stirred the placid waters of Willow Heights, setting the stage for a confrontation that would define the neighborhood's future. The arrival of summer in Willow Heights was something of a sacred tradition. Lawnmowers hummed in harmony across the suburb, sprinklers spun in cheerful arcs, and the air carried the sweet, smoky perfume of grilling meat. This was the season when neighbors who hadn't spoken in months found themselves bonding over ribs and potato salad, when backyards came alive with kids chasing fireflies and adults clinking soda cans or beer bottles. It was a suburban symphony of connection, of simple pleasures under open skies. But as the neighborhood reveled in the joys of summer, one woman regarded it all with thinly veiled contempt, Judith Granger. To Judith, summer meant only one thing: chaos. Smoke from countless grills drifted over her white rose bushes and infiltrated her screens. Laughter from neighbors' yards floated into her study and broke her concentration as she cataloged fresh violations of law codes. Worst of all, the smell of barbecue sauce, sweet, tangy, thick in the air, filled her nose like a noxious gas. She likened it to chemical warfare. And she didn't hesitate to say so. Her complaints began subtly. A note left in a neighbor's mailbox: "Please refrain from open flame cooking. Some of us have sensitive respiratory systems." Then came the passive-aggressive emails to the WA board, filled with buzzwords like public nuisance, air quality, and asthma risk. But when none of these efforts yielded results, and the weekend grills only grew bolder, Judith shifted tactics. She became more aggressive. She started logging every barbecue event she could observe from her windows. Her home office transformed into a command center, complete with a telescope aimed at backyard fire pits and a corkboard covered in printed photos, timestamps, and scribbled notes. She tracked which families held BBQs most often, what time the grilling began, how long it lasted, and how many guests were in attendance. From her perch above Willow Heights, she collected what she believed to be undeniable evidence of a neighborhood in decline. Judith claimed the smoke caused respiratory distress, although she had no diagnosed condition. The noise of laughter and casual music was labeled auditory pollution. And the barbecue sauce, that, she declared, was an olfactory attack that should be considered a public health risk. Her vocabulary grew more dramatic with each letter. She even cited a barely sourced blog article titled, "The Hidden Dangers of Barbecue Smoke," as medical proof that backyard grilling could shorten lifespans. Then, one Tuesday morning, a sleek white envelope was hand-delivered to every mailbox in Willow Heights. The HOA's official seal was printed on the front, and inside was a single-sheet fly. The community buzzed with shock. A barbecue ban, in summer. For many, it was like suggesting a ban on snowmen in December or pumpkins in October. Barbecuing wasn't just cooking, it was tradition, culture, and community rolled into one sizzling experience. People exchanged confused looks at mailboxes, texted in disbelief, and flooded neighborhood Facebook groups. One resident, Marcus Kent, a single father of two, posted a poll titled, "Should BBQs be banned?" The results were laughably one-sided. 97% said no. But Judith wasn't on Facebook. She was too busy preparing her town hall speech. Meanwhile, something remarkable happened. The BBQs increased. Almost in rebellion, neighbors began hosting grill nights in rotating backyards. Some joked about naming their gatherings, "Smoke for Freedom." Others began crafting handmade signs, "Grill, baby, grill," and "Let us meet in peace," and sticking them in their lawns like political banners. It wasn't just about ribs or burgers anymore. It was about principle. Families came together to cook, eat, and share stories. Elderly residents dusted off their lawn chairs and swapped recipes for dry rubs. Teenagers played frisbee as their parents compared smoker techniques. For the first time in years, Willow Heights didn't just feel like a neighborhood, it felt like a community. But for Judith, it was a nightmare. She perceived this explosion of social interaction not as a celebration, but as a siege. From her windows, she glared at the smoke plumes rising above fences and counted every spark as another nail in the coffin of civility. To her, the residents weren't just grilling, they were revolting. Judith doubled her efforts. She called the county air quality department, reported phantom symptoms to local clinics, and even tried contacting a local news station to do a segment on the hidden dangers of charcoal. When her efforts failed to gain traction, she returned to her WA allies, those few who still shared her belief in maintaining strict order. Together, they lobbied harder. They circulated new materials claiming the smell of smoke triggered migraines, that open flames were dangerous near wooden fences, that barbecue grease attracted raccoons. Some of it was grounded in truth, but most was exaggerated. Judith didn't care. All that mattered was that she win. As the Friday town hall approached, tension simmered throughout Willow Heights. Everyone had chosen a side, whether they admitted it or not. Team barbecue or team band. The chatter grew louder with every passing day, and so did the sizzle of grills. Judith watched it all, lips pursed and fingers twitching. The air was thick with anticipation and hickory smoke. What had started as one woman's personal vendetta had now become something larger. A battle over how a neighborhood should live, breathe, and celebrate. It wasn't just about food anymore. It was about freedom, identity, and whether the values of community could withstand the tyranny of one determined voice. And as Judith rehearsed her speech one final time, complete with quotes, statistics, and highlighted outrage, she had no idea that the town hall meeting would mark a turning point. Not just for her crusade, but for the entire soul of Willow Heights. The Willow Heights Community Center had never seen a turnout like this. Cars lined both sides of the street, children trailed behind parents, and neighbors who hadn't spoken in months suddenly found themselves shoulder to shoulder, filing through the double doors beneath the glow of the overhead lights. The room, usually reserved for yoga classes and knitting circles, was filled with folding chairs, clipboards, and the low buzz of anticipation. Some residents wore aprons splattered with sauce as a tongue-in-cheek protest. Others clutched manila folders and WA guidelines. And near the front row, sitting bolt upright with her notes in a binder labeled, "Barbecue Dangers, Confidential," sat Judith Granger. She had dressed the part, a sharp blazer, low heels, and glasses perched on her nose like a gavel about to drop. Around her were the few allies she had gathered, fellow rule sticklers and the eternally annoyed. But for every one of them, there were 5 others wearing barbecue-themed t-shirts or fanning themselves with flyers that read, "Smoke is not a crime." The WA president, Mr. Delaney, called the meeting to order, his voice barely audible over the hum of the crowd. "We are here to discuss proposal number 49C, the restriction or prohibition of backyard barbecue events." The room quieted, just enough for Judith to rise and take the floor. He launched into her speech with the fervor of someone presenting a case before the Supreme Court. She cited statistics, read aloud testimonials, some questionably anonymous, and even held up a mason jar labeled, "Smoke Sample 6/14." She described her sleepless nights, the cloud of carcinogens she claimed hovered over her house, and the relentless intrusion of pork-based aromas. Her delivery was polished, but the room remained unconvinced. Then came the responses. First to the mic was Marcus Kent, the single dad with the Facebook poll. "Look," he began, adjusting his baseball cap, "nobody's trying to set the neighborhood on fire. We just want to grill a few burgers without feeling like criminals." Laughter and applause followed. One by one, neighbors stepped up, families, retirees, teenagers, even a nurse who said, "The only health risk I see is the stress this nonsense is causing." Judith sat rigid, hands clasped tight, as the voices stacked up against her. Even a few of her former supporters began to look uneasy. The room, once divided, was now clearly leaning toward unity, and that unity smelled like hickory and charcoal. By the end of the evening, the WA board took a vote. The proposal was overwhelmingly rejected. Backyard BBQs, it was decided, would remain a proud part of Willow Heights. Judith left the meeting in silence, her binder clutched to her chest like a shield. She had fought hard, but the neighborhood had spoken louder, with smoke, sauce, and solidarity.